Alright guys, welcome back. In the last one we had talked about setting up an HTML page and we created the framework of the page using HTML, and what we ended up with was this, and the sample page that we're trying to follow is this. So as you can see, we have a nav bar, we have a main, we have an about section, we have a portfolio section, and we have our team, and we also have a contact section, which is pretty much what we have done here. We have a navigation section, a main, an about section, portfolio, our team, and contact. Now we're going to make this entire web page look like this using CSS. Now, I must remind you that everything we're going to go through right now, some of it will be pretty straightforward, and you'll get an idea of how CSS works, but some of it will be beyond your understanding at this point, because you need to get in-depth into CSS to understand why we do certain things. So this is just going to be a precursor for you before we get into the actual CSS tutorial, where we'll go through each and every property one by one and explain what everything does. Right now, just see what we can, what we'll be able to achieve with simple CSS. We're not going to be covering CSS animations, and we're not going to be doing responsive web design. We're just simply going to be styling the elements to make it look nice. All right, let's get into it. First of all, we have a navigation bar, and we're going to make our navigation bar look just like this, right? Firstly, what you want to do is you want to create a folder in your root project directory called styles. Right? Inside the styles folder, you want to create a file called styles.css. Great. We're going to be writing all our CSS in this styles.css file. And what we're going to do is we're going to link our index.html file to our styles.css, so that when the browser is loading your index.html, it'll see that, look, there is a styles.css file that you also need to load. So we do that by first of all coming in to the head, and we write link rel is equal to style sheet. The href is going to be the location of the styles of your style sheet. So right now we're going to say dot forward, meaning dot forward slash, meaning the current folder of index.html. Then we're going to go into the styles folder. Inside the styles folder, we're going to look at the styles.css file, and yes, and we're going to click save. And just to see if everything is working, we're going to come into our styles.css now, and any change we make in here should reflect in our web page. So just to test that out, let's try something. Let's just say we write body. That means the entire web page. Everything in the web page is going to have a text color of red. And I click save. And there you go. This means our CSS, our style sheet, is connected to our index.html, and it turned everything in our web page to red. But this is not what we want to do. let's actually get into it, right? I'm not going to be discussing everything in too much detail because that's not the purpose of this video. I'm just trying to show you what we can achieve with CSS. So let's get into the subject immediately. Let's see what all we can achieve, right? So first of all, we have the navigation. Let's sort this out. Right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to split this screen so that it's easier for us to go through our stuff. Great, that's better. Now, a couple of things that we want to do is before we start creating our web page, I want to set everything in the web page to have no padding and no margin. Padding 0, margin 0, and I want to set the font of everything in our web page to be something called Railway. Now, Railway is not a default font on Windows. It's a Google font. So we're going to import that Google font from the Google website. Let's do that. Let's look for Google Fonts, Railway. Here we go. There. This is what Railway looks like. I'm going to select this font. And you can see that the family is selected. And it tells you how to import this font into your web page. So here there's a link. So just like we linked our styles.css to our HTML, we're going to provide another link to be able to import this Railway font from Google APIs. So I'll come back into our HTML, and right here before our style sheet, I'll import the Railway font. And right back here, it'll tell you how to specify the font family in CSS. So it says font family Railway, sans serif. Come back here. I'm going to delete that. And save. We'll save both the documents, and now you will see that all the elements, none of the elements have padding or margin, and they all have a new font. This font is Railway. Great, let's move. Another thing I want to do is set box sizing to border box. The simple way to explain this is to say that, when we add a border to certain elements, it adds additional thickness. But when we say box sizing border box, it means the border is included within the width of the element, meaning it doesn't take any extra space. This allows you to be able to very specifically provide widths for elements when size of the element is very important when you want to adjust things on the web page. We're going to set the line height to for all our text to be 1.6 em. This gives a gap between the text. As you can see right now, there's not enough gap between our text. We're going to set it to 1.6 em, and you can see this is much more spaced out and looks cleaner, looks nicer. White space is good. Moving on. Let's start with our header section. We have a header section, so this is what we're going to focus on. So inside the header, I'm first going to say that, look, we have a brand, we have an H1, and we have a navigation. So we have two sections in there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set them off to the side on one line. So let's do that. So first I'll say display flex. When I say display flex, what it'll do is it'll turn this section, this nav, which everything on the web page actually follows from top to bottom. But when I said display flex inside the header, it took both the elements, that is the heading, and the nav, and set them off next to each other rather than below each other. So we said display to flex. Now I want to say I want to set this navigation at one end and this at one end. So I'm going to use some display, I'm going to use some flex properties. You don't have to understand this, just see what all we can achieve. Justify content, I'm going to say space between. And then I'm going to say align items center. So what the align item center is going to do is it's going to bring each of these elements, if one is big and one is small, instead of shifting all of them to the top of the row, we're going to balance them out into the middle. So that's what this is going to achieve. So as you can see, we have this on one side, we have the navigation on one side, and align items to the center brings them all equally spaced out within the header. For you to better understand this, and what I'm going to do is open up the tool, elements, and let's see, we have the header, as you can see. Now it looks nice. We're going to customize this even a little further. Let's do that. So I'm going to say the header h1 is going to have some padding of 10 pixels, margin left of 20 pixels. Save that, and you can see that this is not stuck to the wall right now. Okay, this is better. So now you can see that the h1 is moved off to the side because we put some margin on the left side. Next, we're going to target the navigation, and we're going to say the list inside the navigation is going to have no dots. So we'll say navigation UL, we'll say list style type none. Save that, and you can see the dots are gone. And we're going to do the same thing like we did for the header, in which we moved the h1 and navigation on one line. We're going to do the same thing for our entire list, and we're going to say the display is going to be flex, so everything is going to be on one line. Display flex. There we go. Now everything's on one line. Now this is all crunched up together, so we're going to make this a little nice. Let's put the width of each of these elements about 100 pixels so it looks good. Let's do that. Nav. UL LI. Now when we write nav UL LI, that means we're looking for the list items inside an unordered list, which is inside a container of nav, which is inside a nav. Now the only nav that exists on the page is this one in the header, so it's going to target only these. It's not going to worry about any other lists that we have on the page, because we've specified what exactly we're looking at. As you can see, this has an LI, UL, and a div. But what we're talking about is an LI, UL, and a nav. Right? And what we're going to do is we're going to set the width to 100 pixels. We're going to say text align center. Save that. There we go. So first of all, we set the width of each of these items to be 100 pixels, and then we set all of them to the center. Otherwise, everything would have been. Let's actually let me show you this. Inspect. Great. And we don't need this. Close that. As you can see, the li. Now text align center moves all the text to the center of the list. If we didn't provide that, then all the text in the list would be at the starting of the li. So great. Almost done. Now, these LIs actually have to be clickable, right? They have to be links, so let's actually do that. Let's come back into our HTML and set an anchor, and we'll say this one will have we'll say this will be a home. Okay, we'll do the same thing for about, portfolio, and team. Do that. Portfolio, team, contact. What I'm going to do, A. Great. Control S. And we can see that all of these are actually anchors now, meaning they are links. Let's provide the link for each one of them. So if you remember how we could do that, is we'll say main will have an ID. Our main section will have an ID of main, and we'll say the link for this anchor in our navigation will be the ID of main. Control save, and you can see that now when we click on home, it goes to the main. Let's do this for the rest of the page. So the second section is the about, and we'll say ID is equal to about, and we'll say that here. Actually, let's set this all up together. We'll say section portfolio ID is equal to portfolio. We'll say this one is team. We'll say footer is equal to contact, and that's good. So we set up the IDs for all these things, and now the way we reference IDs is by using a hashtag and before the ID name. So we'll say hashtag about. It means when we click on this anchor, it's gonna go to the about ID. This one is gonna be portfolio. This one's gonna be team, and the last one, contact, will go to the ID of contact. Great. If you come up here and try to click on home, you'll see that we end up at the main section. If we click about, it goes to the about section. Portfolio doesn't work. Might be a spelling mistake. Hashtag portfolio, portfolio. Hashtag portfolio. Works fine. Okay. Portfolio doesn't work. Team works. Right? Where's the portfolio section? Why doesn't portfolio work? Something's wrong. PORT, hashtag portfolio. Section ID is equal to hashtag. Oh, sorry, this is not a hashtag. This is just PORT. Sorry. Save this. Come back here. Portfolio should work now. There we go. Team and contact. Great. All of them work. So now the links work. Now we don't want this. We don't want these anchors to be in purple, and we don't want this underline. So we're just going to say Inside the nav, there is a UL, there's an LI, and inside the LI, there's an anchor. So we want this anchor to have no text decoration, meaning we don't want that underlined. We're going to say none, and we're going to say the color is going to be black. We don't want it to be purple. We save this, come back here, and there we go. And you can see that the mouse changes to a pointer, meaning this is a link. Great, so we finished up with the header. Next, we'll move on to the main. I'll see you guys there.